Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us right here on SA Today. Now, job creation has received a shot in the arm with 27 investment managers joining initiatives to deal with unemployment in the country. The South African independent black female-owned multi-manager has signed a deal that will see the National Treasury's Jobs Fund contributes 200 million rand to 27's Black Business Growth Fund to be used to create jobs through providing funding to black private equity fund managers focused on investing in mid-market privately owned companies for growth. 27 has in turn committed to raising more than 1 billion rand in matched funding. To tell us more is Rory Ord, who is business fund head at 27. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, Colin.
All right. So, how much have you been able to gather to be able to organize finances in order to grow these asset managers?
Well, what we've seen, Colin, is that the scale of the problem is huge. I think what everyone can agree on in South Africa is that we need jobs and we need as much money as possible to direct towards this cause. Our partnership, 27's partnership with the Jobs Fund, has raised a 200 million rand cash injection. And what we're doing as 27 is we're matching that 200 million rand with a further billion rand of funding to invest in mid-sized South African companies to create growth from those companies and ultimately to arrive at job creation.
What's the criterion for qualification?
Well, what we're really looking to do is direct this money towards middle-sized companies. And the reason for doing that is that there's a lot of emphasis on small and medium-sized entities, and there's a lot of financing in South Africa that goes towards the large end. Large companies listed on the JSE, that side of things is really taken care of. But there's this missing middle where we can really create a lot of jobs by taking companies that are already established, already thriving, but really need to be taken to the next level where they can really create a lot of jobs in that transition.
All right. I'd like us to bring this discussion closer to home by getting to the basics, because when we're speaking to our viewers at home, when we say asset managers, what are we talking about?
Yeah, so asset managers are really those intermediaries that sit between the savings pools that are in the country. So when you and I contribute to our pension funds or we contribute to life insurance policies, all of that money goes into investments. And asset managers are really those intermediaries who take those pools of capital and invest it into various different forms of investments around the country. So that would include things like investing in JSE listed companies, but also in our case with our Black Business Growth Fund, investing in companies that are in South Africa's real economy, that are outside of the listed markets.
When you look at the investment landscape in South Africa, it is a reality that it's white dominated. The black asset managers are really finding it difficult to penetrate the market. I mean, when you look at the black managers, they are only running about 490 billion rand, whereas the industry is more than 8.7 trillion rand. I mean, like, that's crumbs, man.
That's right. So that's something that 27 has focused on since its inception. It's focused on the states of transformation within the asset management industry, and we actually do a survey every year to show how things are progressing. And yes, we still see black asset managers taking up a minority. We have seen positive movements over time. We're seeing that across different types of investments, right from listed investments to unlisted investments that we focus on. But it is a journey and something that still needs to change quite a long way.
So when you speak to these black asset managers, have you done a survey in terms of the needs analysis, in terms of how they've been operational for, how long they've been operational for, and also their performance in the market, whether or not they are able to deliver, and also what's really pulling them back in terms of non-performance?
Yeah, so we find that in general, what asset managers are is small businesses. They're collections of people, collections of professionals who have formed a business to fulfill this intermediary asset management function that we were just talking about. So what they typically need is capital. So they need some money to manage and make investments with, and they need some help with their business as well. So they typically need a little bit of help with setting up, say, governance structures, some of the administration that sits behind the business, and that's something that we help all of our managers with. On the performance side, we find the performance is typically very good. We did an analysis a little while back which actually showed that the black asset managers in the country were outperforming the traditional managers over a number of periods, and that was really encouraging to see.
When you speak to black asset managers, you find that some of them are very educated, highly intelligent, and they understand the market, but they're not able to penetrate, as I was mentioning earlier. What is causing this problem of lack of transformation? Is it an issue of not being able to find middle ground in terms of skills transfer or collaboration? Because there's a missing link here. Why would people be able to get in an industry which is more than 8 trillion rand and they only manage just a fraction of that industry? Why is there lack of transformation?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's what we see is that there's a lot of concentration. There's a few large brand names who really manage the vast majority of the capital in the country, and those tend not to be the black asset managers. And the black asset managers are more struggle to kind of get to that level of scale. They often get started and get to a point, but very few sort of kick on to become very large asset managers.
Please unbundle that struggle part of it, because if you want to chop a tree down and you're hitting it on one spot, eventually you're going to make headway and the tree will eventually fall. But they've been chopping for a long time. And why would people with such great brains, so much skills, qualifications and experience, but they're finding it hard? And this issue of transformation in the asset management company cannot only be done with funding. Is there a pushback? Is there a strategy to deny them to get in there because they are black? What is this? Is this the race issue? Is it the lily whiteness of the top management structure of the whole value chain of asset management?
I'd say we don't really know what the answer is to that question. I think that we can guess. But I think the biggest hurdle is just that most money goes to a few big brands. And I think that applies both to black asset managers and white asset managers that are smaller. They struggle to get a bigger share of the pie. There are a few big names who have been operating for a very long time, and those brand names are lodged in all of our brains, and they manage to attract a lot of capital. Yeah. I think it is perhaps a matter of time before we see a very large black asset manager come through.
So I guess after this interview, there will be a chicken run towards that few billions that you have raised. So where must they contact you?
Anyone can contact us through all of our details are on our website at 274.com. There's details about our Black Business Growth Fund, which is specifically looking at private equity and investing in unlisted companies. But we have people working on all the different components of the asset management industry.
All right. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
Thanks very much, Colin.
All right. Well, we're speaking here to Rory Ord, who is Business Fund Head at 274 Asset Managers.